So, apology for the shirtlessness, however, I'm in Sicily right now, so yeah. You can probably hear the fan on the background. I'm sorry about that, but the heat is just... Anyway, today I wanted to talk about one particular passage in the Picatrix. It's about the moon and the electional rules of the moon, using the moon, especially about the latitude of the moon. So there is a particular passage in the Picatrix in book 1 chapter 5 which says, in the same way you should preserve her from Saturn and Mars, and be careful that she not descend in southern latitudes beyond the 12 degrees mentioned above, or the same in northern latitudes. So the Picatrix actually mentions 12 degrees for the combustion of the moon. In fact, just like two lines above, it says, you should beware of trying to work magic to a good end when the moon is applying to an eclipse or under the rays of the sun, that is 12 degrees before or after. So I have prepared a nice chart in SolarFire. Here we go. So as you can see, I have skipped to when the moon is actually in square to the nodes, because if you think about it, the southernmost latitudes and the northernmost latitudes the moon reaches are exactly corresponding to those 2 points, which is the square to the southern and northern nodes of the moon, and of course the opposite point, which would be here. Of course, once the moon is conjunct the south node, that's the point where it actually starts to descend in latitudes, and when the moon reaches the square, this is the southernmost point in latitude, and of course once the moon goes toward the north node, she starts to go up in latitude. When she's conjunct either one of the nodes, in this case the north node, the moon is exactly on the ecliptic, and then of course starts to rise even more, and right now we will have a full moon squaring the nodes. As you can see, the sun is here, but if the moon were to be here, this would be the northernmost point in latitude that the moon would reach. So let me switch to Stellarium. Here we go. So as you can see right now, this is set to the 11th of August, and was it? Yes, the same date that we looked at in Stellarium. So as you can see, this yellow line here is the ecliptic of date, and as you can see, if you look at the moon, you can see that the ecliptic is here, and the moon is very much far away from it here. And if you look at the ecliptic latitude, that's -5 degrees. And if we were to skip ahead of some days, let's see, for example, the 19th of August, and as you can see, the moon is exactly on the ecliptic, slightly less, and as you can see, the ecliptic latitude is about 0. Just a slight negative value here because the moon is slightly lower in latitude, but more or less it's on the ecliptic. So let's see, this is the 19th of August. Let's go back to SolarFire and skip to the 19th. Yes, and as you can see, the moon is very much near the north node. So just to be curious, the moon exactly conjunct the north node. This is the 18th of now this is the 18th of August. I've actually skipped to the 19th before. Yes, as you can see, in the 18th of August, the moon is exactly conjunct the north node, and as you can see in stellarium, this is exactly on the ecliptic, which makes sense, of course. Makes sense, of course. Oh, hey, focus, focus. Can you focus? Yeah, here we go. Which makes sense, of course, because we know that the nodes of the moon are the 2 points where the ecliptic and the orbit of the moon intersect. So it makes sense that when the moon is conjunct either one of the nodes, it's perfectly on the ecliptic. And of course, what is the most distant point from the ecliptic if you talk about the moon? Here we go. Well, of course, it would be the most distant point from the nodes. Of course, from the south node, the most distant point would be the completely opposite point, but of course the other node is there. So what is the most distant point from both the nodes? Well, the points where the moon squares both the nodes. So when the moon squares, like here, that's at 24 degrees, that's okay, that's the 26th of August. This would be the highermost point in latitude, the northernmost point in latitude that the moon reaches, and the moon is squaring the nodes. It's a separating square, but yeah, the concept is clear, I think. Let's see, 12 degrees, oops, sorry, stop. All right, let's do something like this. Here we go. The moon now is at 16th degree of Leo, perfectly squaring the nodes at 16 degrees in Taurus and Scorpio. So of course the moon, the planets always move in an anti-clockwise motion. That's a secondary motion. So the moon has passed the conjunction to the north node, sorry, and so it's starting to rise after the square here where Saturn is, coincidentally, and so this point in Leo, which is at the 26th of August, will be the northernmost point that the moon reaches, latitude wise. Let's go and take a look at stellarium. Let's skip to the 26th of August. Yes, and as you can see, if we remove the atmosphere, here we go. Of course, this is a new moon because, as you can see from solar fire, the moon is about to be conjunct to the sun. And of course the moon this is the ecliptic of date, and of course the moon is at the northernmost point in latitude, and of course the ecliptic latitude is a +4. This is at 5 a.m. If we go and take a look at solar fire, that's at midnight, midnight. Let's go and click and take midnight, and the moon is of course under the horizon. Let's remove the terrain. Yep, here it is. And as you can see, +4 in latitude, that's the highermost point, the northernmost point in latitude, and the moon is conjunct Venus. Let's confirm this in solar fire. Yes, it is. As you can see, the moon is perfectly conjunct Venus. Let's go back to stellarium. As you can see, everything corresponds. The moon is squaring the nodes. This is the northernmost, so the highest point on the ecliptic. And yeah, so if we go back to the Picatrix, so we can see that the Picatrix says that we... Hi, here. Here I am again. Focus. Alright. So the Picatrix says that you should preserve her from Saturn and Mars, which is one of the worst afflictions that the moon can have in any aspect to either of the malefics. And at the same time, this the Picatrix says, and be careful that she not descend in southern latitudes beyond the 12 degrees mentioned above, or the same in northern latitudes. So those 12 degrees, as we just saw, the moon does not reach 12 degrees in latitude in so I guess the Picatrix is saying beware of working with you know, any kind of magic when the moon is squaring the nodes, but also when the moon is I don't think application and separation is an issue here, because the Picatrix is saying that basically the moon should not be combust, should not be under the rays, which is 12 degrees before or after the sun in longitude. But then it says that you should be careful that she not descend in southern latitudes beyond the 12 degrees mentioned above. So to me, this is an obscure passage, but it can mean that when the moon is not combust, which is a prerequisite, and which is not, I mean, unless you want to make a curse talisman, something like invisible. There's plenty of invisibility operations that make use of the combustion and the moon being invisible under the rays of the sun. But anyway, that, you know, not being under the rays of the sun is the first prerequisite, but then when you get this prerequisite under your belt, so to speak, and the election does not have a moon which is 12 degrees before or after the sun, then you also beware of working with the moon. You should also beware. Is that a yeah, anyway, when she descends in the southern or northern latitudes. And of course the most extreme situation we have of this is when the moon is squaring the nodes, because when the moon squares the nodes, as we just saw, that's the most distant points that the moon can reach in latitude, both southern and northern. So to me the Picatrix is saying beware of working, of doing any magical working when the moon is squaring the nodes, both applying a square to the nodes and both separating both squares to the nodes, because when this happens the moon is either in its most extreme northern latitude and very far from the ecliptic, actually the furthest away from the ecliptic, from the ecliptic that it can be. And the same goes for the other opposite point. We could even, I don't know, name these points as I don't know, northernmost squaring point of the moon to the nodes. I don't know, something like that. But anyway, yeah, the Picatrix is saying to me, maybe beware of working when the moon is combust or under the rays, and if it is not, then beware of working when the moon is around the square to the nodes, because that's the point where the moon will be southernmost and northernmost in latitude. And so this means that it's the most distant from the ecliptic. And if we look at it symbolically, we could say that that's the furthest away she is from our life if we take the ecliptic as the main, you know, manifestation path of the sun, which is central to life on Earth. It's a bit like, you know, fixed stars, like the stars that are more distant, the more distant from the ecliptic, are the most alien to us, the most weird, non-conducive to life, and the ones that are more the ones that are nearer to the ecliptic, like Regulus or even Spica, are the most conducive to life and the most benefic and the most human, the most human-like, life conducing, positive, all around positive stars. So probably when the moon is the furthest away from the ecliptic, that means that maybe it's also, these are points where it's very difficult to manifest stuff because it's far from us, quote unquote, symbolically. Maybe it's also because it's a square, so it's a conflict to the intersection point with the ecliptic, so it's in conflict to whatever the two luminaries can symbolically be taken to agree with each other. I don't know if that even makes any grammatical sense, but I think you got the overall message. So yeah, it's interesting to note what the symbolic meaning of this is and why the Picatrix tells us to beware when and not work any kind of magic when the moon is descended in southern or northern latitudes. And yeah, that's about it for today. Thank you for bearing with me and my weird English of today. So this has been Eduardo Costa from the Ivory Tower. As always, you can find all the links in the description box below. If you want to donate, buy talismans I make, buy services, I do consultations, half-hour consultations, hour consultations, and blah blah blah, all that stuff. Remember to like, subscribe, and tell your friends. Alright, see you later, bye.